tracing patterns on her arm. You know how much I love you, right? Of course, Jack, she smiled, her eyes soft. And I love you. And I'm happy, truly happy, with how things are. He paused, choosing his words carefully. But sometimes, I can't help but think about what marriage means. To me, it's not just a piece of paper. You know, it's a declaration. It's saying to the world, this is it. This is my person. Forever. Vicky stiffened slightly, her smile fading. And living together isn't our daily choice to be together, to build a life, a stronger declaration than any piece of paper? It is. It absolutely is. Jack quickly reassured her, seeing the familiar fear rising in her eyes. But it's different. For me, it's about creating a family, a legacy. It's about that ultimate commitment, that unbreakable bond. He struggled to explain the nuances of his feelings, the deep-seated cultural and personal significance of marriage that was so ingrained in him. Vicky pulled away slightly, her gaze distant. Jack, I've told you why I can't. I can't risk that kind of pain again. I saw what marriage did to my parents. It didn't create a family. It tore one apart. It created a battleground, not a home. Her voice was tight, a tremor running through it. Every time you bring this up, it feels like you're trying to erase my past, to dismiss my fears. It feels like you don't trust our love enough to believe it can last without a legal contract. That's not it at all, Jack protested, his voice filled with frustration. I trust our love more than anything. It's precisely because I trust our love that I want to formalize it, to celebrate it in the most profound way I know how. He paused, then sighed, seeing the wall go up in her eyes. I want to be your husband, Vicky. Not just your partner, not just the man you live with, your husband. Vicky shook her head, tears glistening in her eyes. And I want to be your partner, Jack. The woman you choose every single day, without the pressure of a title, without the fear of a contract that can turn love into obligation. Can't you accept that? Can't you accept me, as I am, with my fears and my past? The conversation ended in a familiar stalemate, leaving them both feeling frustrated and emotionally drained. The unspoken chasm between them, though rarely acknowledged, was always there, a subtle undercurrent beneath their otherwise happy life. Meanwhile, Mr. Bradford, ever vigilant, continued to find ways to subtly undermine their relationship. He started inviting eligible young doctors and lawyers to social gatherings at his apartment, always making sure Vicky was there, and always making sure Jack was conspicuously absent. Victoria, darling, Dr. Peterson is a brilliant young cardiologist. He'd gush, introducing a handsome, impeccably dressed man to Vicky. He's just opened his own practice, and he's looking for a truly dedicated nurse to manage his office. And he has such a lovely home in Malibu, with an ocean view. The implication was clear. A life with Dr. Peterson would be far more suitable than her current arrangement. Vicky would politely decline, always citing her existing commitments and her satisfaction with her current job. But the constant parade of suitable coupled with her father's relentless pressure, chipped away at her resolve, making her question the path she had chosen. She knew her father believed he was acting in her best interest, but his methods were insidious, designed to create doubt and insecurity. One particularly stressful week, Jack's restaurant faced a sudden health inspection, which, though they passed with flying colors, was unexpectedly rigorous. Jack suspected Mr. Bradford's influence. Simultaneously, Vicky was dealing with a particularly challenging patient at the hospital, and the emotional toll was heavy. They found themselves snapping at each other more often, small frustrations escalating into larger arguments. A misplaced remote control, a forgotten grocery item, a slight oversight in their shared chores, mundane issues that, under normal circumstances, would have been easily resolved, now became sources of tension. You know, if we were married, Jack grumbled one evening, after a particularly pointless argument about who left the cap off the toothpaste, we'd probably have a system for this stuff, a shared responsibility, a more structured approach. Vicky glared at him. And there it is again. Everything comes back to marriage, doesn't it, Jack? You think a piece of paper is going to magically solve all our problems? It's not about marriage. It's about communication. And right now, we're clearly not doing a very good job of it. The argument escalated, fueled by exhaustion and unspoken resentments. They went to bed angry, the silent chasm between them feeling wider and deeper than ever before. Lying awake in the dark, Jack stared at the ceiling, a profound sadness settling over him. He loved Vicky more than words could say, but he felt a fundamental part of him was unfulfilled. He wanted the security, the finality, the public declaration of marriage. He wanted to build a traditional family with her, to have children who bore his name, to grow old knowing they were bound by an unbreakable vow. And yet, she couldn't give him that, not without triggering her deepest fears. Vicky, lying beside him, felt a similar anguish. She knew she was hurting him, but her fear of marriage was a visceral, almost physical aversion. She saw the love in his eyes, felt the sincerity in his touch, but the word marriage conjured images of shattered homes, bitter words, and the profound sadness of her childhood. She couldn't bring herself to take that leap, to risk repeating the cycle of pain she had witnessed. The next morning, a strained politeness hung between them. Jack left for the restaurant early, leaving a note for Vicky. "I'm sorry about last night. We need to talk properly afterward." Vicky found the note, her heart sinking. She knew this conversation would be difficult, perhaps even defining. The unspoken fears, the fundamental differences in their visions of commitment, had finally come to a head. The question was, could their love bridge such a deeply personal, deeply ingrained divide? Chapter 8. The Crossroads. The air in the apartment felt heavy that evening, thick with unspoken words and nervous anticipation. Jack had closed the restaurant early, his mind too preoccupied to focus on cooking. Vicky had arrived home, her face pale, her usual vibrant energy subdued. They sat across from each other at the small kitchen table, the silence punctuated only by the distant hum of city traffic. "Vicky," Jack began, his voice soft, almost hesitant. "We can't keep doing this. These arguments, this underlying tension, it's not fair to either of us. It's not how I want us to live." Vicky nodded, her gaze fixed on her hands, clasped tightly on the table. "I know. It's like there's this invisible wall between us. Sometimes, and I hate it." "It's the marriage thing, isn't it?" Jack stated, cutting to the chase. He knew it was the elephant in their perfectly appointed, non-married, living room. Vicky finally looked up, her eyes filled with the raw vulnerability. "Yes, it is. Jack, I love you, more than I've ever loved anyone. But my fear, it's just so deep. It's not about you. It's about what marriage represents to me. It's about the pain I witnessed. The promises that were broken. The way love turned into something so ugly." She paused, taking a shaky breath. "I know you want that traditional commitment. And I feel like I'm constantly disappointing you, constantly failing to give you what you truly desire." Jack reached across the table, taking her hands in his. "You could never disappoint me, Vicky. And you could never fail me. My desire for marriage, it comes from a place of wanting to secure our future, to build something strong and lasting. It's not a judgment on you, or on our love." He looked into her eyes, pleading for understanding. "But I also can't deny that it's important to me. It's how I envision my life, my family. It's how I want to show the world, and you, how deeply I'm committed." A tear tracked down Vicky's cheek, and I can't deny that the thought of it fills me with dread. The legal aspect, the societal expectations, the feeling of being trapped, it all just reminds me of my parents. I want to be with you, Jack, truly, but I want it to be a choice we make every day, freely, without the weight of a contract hanging over our heads. The stalemate, once a quiet undercurrent, was now a stark reality, laid bare between them. They were at a crossroads, their fundamental desires pulling them in different directions. "So, what do we do?" Vicky whispered, her voice laced with despair. "Are we just incompatible? Is this just a fundamental difference we can't overcome?" Jack squeezed her hands, his own heart aching. "I don't know, Vicky. I honestly don't know. I've tried to imagine a life without you, and it's empty. But I've also tried to imagine a life without marriage, and it feels incomplete, for me." The silence that followed was deafening, filled with the unspoken fear of separation. They both knew the gravity of the situation. This wasn't a petty argument. It was a clash of deeply held values, of personal histories and future visions. Just then, a sudden, insistent banging rattled their apartment door. It was Mr. Bradford. Of course, his voice booming from the hallway. "Victoria Jad, I know you're in there. I need to discuss the new plumbing regulations, immediately." The intrusion, though unwelcome, served as a perverse kind of relief, momentarily breaking the agonizing tension between them. Vicky pulled her hands away, wiping her eyes. He never gives up, does he? Jack, however, felt a surge of unexpected anger. His personal struggles were one thing,